Hello everyone, how are you all? This is Miss WM. I'm glad to be with you today in our session. Our lesson today will last for 45 minutes. And first of all, I'll share my screen. Here we go. Let's start with the objectives of our lesson today. By the end of this lesson, we want to achieve 3 objectives. The first one is to differentiate between adverbs and adverbial phrases of frequency. The second is to use adverbs and adverbial phrases of frequency with the present simple tense in different sentences. And the last one is to identify adverbs and adverbial phrases of frequency in different contexts. Let's get started. All right, let's start our session today with this picture. How does the girl sit? I want you to describe the verb sit. She sits quietly, she sits sadly, she sits calmly. All right. Moving on to the second picture. As you can see here, this is a tortoise. Okay, how does it walk? Describe the verb walk. We all know that the tortoise walks slowly. All right. Another picture, and it shows some kids, and they seem happy. Okay, but what are they doing? I want you to describe the verb play. They play happily, they dance excitedly. All right. Another question, how do they look? Do they look excited, happy? All right. Now we want to describe the adjective happy. They look extremely happy. Okay. So in these questions, in the first question, we described the verb play. They play happily. In the second question, we described how they look. We described their feeling. The adjective happy. They look extremely happy. Okay, how about this? The dog barks. How does it bark? It barks loudly. It barks furiously. It barks angrily. Again, here we are describing the verb bark. Now, this picture is for you. Think about cooking. How do you cook? Answers may vary. Someone can say, I cook perfectly, I cook well, or I cook quickly. Look at these 3 adverbs. Well, perfectly, and quickly. The adverb well, it comes from the adjective good. Like when I say he's a good chef, he cooks well. He's a good chef, he cooks well. In the second one, perfectly. She's a perfect chef. She cooks perfectly. Okay. So from the previous pictures, you can figure out that the adverb is used to describe how something is done, to describe the verb. And it can also describe an adjective or even another adverb or an entire sentence. Adverbs can be used to show manner, degree, or to what extent, place, and time, or how often something happens. And the adverbs are commonly formed by adding the suffix ly. And sometimes we don't even add any ly. Okay, like for example, fast. She runs fast. We don't add ly here. She cooks well. It's a totally different word from the adjective good. So pay attention to this. And here's a note. Not all the words that end in ly are adverbs. Some of them are just adjectives. Like what? Like the adjective lovely. When I say, these are lovely flowers, lovely here is an adjective that describes the flowers. I'm lonely. Lonely describes how I feel. It's an adjective. This is a friendly boy. Friendly here is an adjective. It's just a describing word. I attended a lively party. Lively is also an adjective that describes the party. All right, now let's practice. I'll share my screen one more time. Here we go. It's an exercise that differentiates between the adverbs and the adjectives. I don't want you to be confused between them. Here, she's skating careful or carefully. We are describing the verb skating. How does she skate? She's skating carefully. And as you can see here, carefully ends with ly. So here's a vowel, u, and the vowel comes right before the consonant L. So we have to double the L or simply add ly. Okay, here, Marcus is good or well. Do we need an adverb here or an adjective? We want to describe the boy, which is a noun. So Marcus is good. My teacher Earth is, we are describing a noun. The teacher is loud. Chloe is fishing. How does he fish? This is a verb. He is fishing quietly. All right. Mireya Belmont swims. How does she swim? I need an adverb that describes the verb swim. So she swims well. Oscar is climbing. How does he climb? He's climbing easily. Now let's have a look at this adjective easy. It ends with the letter Y. If the word ends with Y, we simply cross it out and change it to I and then add ly. Okay, this fish is, we want to describe the fish, which is a noun. So this fish is quick. Charles sails. How does he sail? It's a verb. I want to describe the verb. He sails slowly. Okay. Peter and B dance. How do they dance? They dance badly. Voldemort is bad. He's a bad person. All right. Let's check this out. Great job. So now I think it's clear for you what are the adjectives. Back to our PowerPoint presentation. All right. So we will move on to the second concept of this lesson. But I want you to look at this picture and think of the sports. Do you like sports? It's a very healthy habit to play sports. Tell me, how often do you play sports? Rarely? Always? Never? I usually play sports. Sometimes I play sports. Okay, so you can use words like rarely, usually, always, sometimes to express how many times do you do something. If you want to talk about habits or routine, you can simply use words like um, rarely, often, and sometimes. And these words are called the frequency words or the frequency adverbs. All right, let's watch this video together to make it easier for you to get the concept. I'll share my screen. Here we are.
Adverbs of frequency. Never, seldom, rarely, sometimes, usually, often, always. Spock never pets dogs, only cats. Spock rarely shows any emotion. Spock usually wears a blue uniform. Spock sometimes agrees with others. Spock sometimes fights with Captain Kirk. Sometimes, Spock argues with Scotty. Spock always has short hair and thin eyebrows. Spock often moves his eyebrows up and down. Spock usually gives good advice. Spock almost never gets excited. Spock always thinks logically. How often do you watch Star Trek? The end.
All right. Back again to our lesson. And I hope it's clear for you now what are the adverbs of frequency. The adverbs of frequency, they show how many times an action is done. It answers or it gives information about how often or how many times do you do this action. So let's have a look at always, usually, often, sometimes, hardly ever, rarely, or never. When I say always, that means all the time I do this, 100% of the time. Usually means like 90%, most of the time I do this action. Often means like I do it, but sometimes I don't do it. 70% of the time I do this. Sometimes means half of the time. When I say sometimes I play football, that means half of the time, 50% of the time. So if I say, for example, if we have 6 days, so when I say sometimes I play football, that means 3 times I do it. 3 times I play football. Hardly ever or rarely means if there are 6 days, that means maybe only once I do it. Okay, only one day. Never, that means I never ever do this. Okay, let's have a look to the following examples. He always drinks milk. That means 100% of the time he drinks milk. Every day. He never misses a day. They hardly ever follow the rules. That means if there are 6 days, they may only follow the rules for one day. just 10% of the time. I clean my room every day. Every day, it gives the same meaning of always. She often helps her dad, like not all the time, but most of the time she helps her dad. Okay, so now as you know, there are different kinds of sentences. So we now want to know how can we form a sentence using the adverbs of frequency. And there are three forms: the affirmative form, the negative form, and the interrogative form. Let's start with the affirmative form. When I say the affirmative form, that means the positive form, okay? So in order to form a sentence in the affirmative form, we have to use the subject, a frequency adverb, then a verb. Now let's remind me, what is the subject? He, she, it, they, we, you, or I. Okay. The first example says, she usually tidies up her room. So the subject, she, usually, this is the frequency adverb, tidies up, that's the verb. All right. And here we have to stick to the present simple tense. The present simple tense states that if the verb comes after he, she, or it has to be plus S. Okay, so just bear in mind that after the subject, he, she, or it, we have to put the verb plus S. This is how we indicate the present simple tense. Other than he, she, it, any other pronoun or any other subject, we just leave the verb without any S. Okay. The second example says, we sometimes have pizza for lunch. We, the subject, sometimes the frequency adverb, have, that's the verb. He's always late. Okay. I occasionally meet my friends in the cafe. As you can notice here, the pronoun or the subject, then the frequency adverb and the verb. That's the formation. He never tells a lie. That means he never ever tells a lie. He always says the truth and nothing else other than the truth. Okay. Moving on to the negative form. If I want to form a sentence using the adverbs of frequency in the negative form, so we have to think of don't and doesn't in the present simple. Okay? Don't and doesn't. So the adverb of frequency comes before the main verb. Bear this in mind. The first example says, they don't usually play chess. He doesn't normally walk to school. Mom doesn't usually make desserts. I don't often work from home. And the last one, we are not often late. Okay? So the frequency verb, usually. Okay, what comes before usually? Don't or doesn't, or verb to be also. Am, is, are, aren't, am not, are not. Okay, so he doesn't normally, and as you can see here, after he, she, or it, you can find the verb plus S, or you can find doesn't. He doesn't, mom doesn't. On the other side, they don't, I don't. And verb to be, we are not. Okay. And here is a very important note. Use never and hardly ever with positive verbs and only positive verbs. Why? Because never and hardly ever are already negative words. They are already negative. So they have to come with positive verbs. Like the example, Dad is never late for lunch. I hardly ever sleep early. Got it? All right. Moving on to the last form, which is the interrogative form. Interrogative form means the question form. How can I form a question using the adverbs of frequency? First of all, I need an auxiliary, then the subject, then the frequency adverb. The auxiliary is the helping verb, like the first example. Do you frequently have dinner at work? Do is the auxiliary verb, and the subject, you, and the frequency adverb, frequently. Do you frequently have dinner at work? Does she often cook rice? Are you usually late for the bus? Is he always grumpy? So pay attention to the formation of the question form. Okay, as you can see in the first example, do is the auxiliary verb, the subject you, frequently is the frequency adverb, and have is the verb. In the second example, does she often cook rice? And the verb here, cook. Are you usually late for the bus? And late here is an adjective. And in the last one, is he always grumpy? And grumpy is always an adjective. Great. Now let's move on to the interesting part. Let's practice together. I'll share with you an interactive video. And I want you to listen really carefully and pay attention. Here we go. Here we go. Can you see my screen? I hope it's clear for everyone. Let's get started.
Get grammar. We always eat popcorn.
I usually hang out with Anna and Hammy at the week.
Okay, what's the missing word? I told you to listen carefully. I usually hang out with Anna and Hammy at the weekend. Great job.
Hammy at the weekend. Max and I sometimes play computer games.
Okay, Mark and I sometimes play computer games.
Hammy doesn't like games. He never plays with us. He's usually in the kitchen.
He usually is in the kitchen, or he's usually in the kitchen? Of course, the second one is the correct answer.
He makes popcorn. We often watch DVDs.
And we always eat popcorn.
Okay. What are the frequency verbs, frequency adverbs that you heard? We often watch DVDs and we always eat popcorn. Amazing.
Eat popcorn.
Hammy usually eats all of the popcorn.
He usually eats all of the popcorn.
Sorry. Look and learn.
Now listen carefully.
Always. Usually. Often. Sometimes. Never. We play computer games. We sometimes play computer games. Hammy plays with us. Hammy never plays with us. Hammy is in the kitchen. Hammy is usually in the kitchen. Bye!
Thank you. Now moving on to the second interactive video. It requires attention too, and you have to listen carefully. Let's start.
Wake up, Daddy, wake up!
Good morning.
Good morning to you.
All right, here. Shrek up early. Always get. Ha. Shrek. What's the subject of Shrek? He. And as we mentioned before, any verb that comes after he, she, or it should be plus S. Exactly. So, Shrek always gets up early.
Better out than in.
Hey, that's my line.
Shrek, his babies. Usually feed or usually feeds. Feeds usually? Can we say that? Of course not. So, usually feeds his babies.
My line. Did my little Fergus make a big grown-up ogre stink? Oh, that's diabolical.
And on your left, the lovable log that showed us you don't have to change your undies to change the world.
Fill in the blanks using the words usually or and go or usually go. So Shrek space to the bathroom and reads the newspaper. I want to use both of the words usually and go. So Shrek usually go or goes. Of course goes to the bathroom. All right, let's check. Okay.
Wonder what Shrek's up to in there.
Get possible to put on.
Okay, the dragon goes under the bridge, through the loop, and finally into the castle.
All right. Here we need to put the sentence in the correct order to make it comprehensible. All right. We start with Fiona. Fiona what? Helps. Shrek. Or Fiona often. Fiona often helps Shrek dress the babies. As you can see here, when we started with Fiona, so Fiona helps. Now Fiona helps. Fiona often helps Shrek dress the babies.
Winter, spring, summer, or fall. All you got to do is go.
Another fill in the blanks using the words sometimes and come. Donkey and his babies. What's the subject of donkey and his babies? They. So, donkey and his babies sometimes come or comes. Of course, come. Because the pronoun here or the subject here, they. Donkey and his babies sometimes come to play with Shrek and his babies. Good job.
Then Shrek kissed the princess. She turned into a beautiful ogre, and they lived happily
Ever
after.
They space dinner together. They, which one is correct? Of course, we don't have any English word that says haves. It's a big mistake. So, they sometimes have. All right, you're doing absolutely correct. Okay. Here we need to rearrange the words to make a complete sentence. Shrek always Shrek and Fiona always wash the dishes. Okay, as you can see here, when we said Shrek and Fiona, we used the verb wash without any S. Oh, Fiona and Shrek, or Shrek and Fiona, doesn't matter. All right.
Look, a shooting star.
So, what did you wish for?
That every day could be like this one.
Oh, come here, you. One love, one heart. Let's get.
Cat space the guitar after dinner. Occasionally, Play or plays? Plays, exactly. Cat occasionally plays the guitar after dinner.
Together and feel alright.
Morning, Daddy.
Morning. Better out than in.
Did my little Fergus make a... Cute. Real cute.
This lovable lug taught us you don't have to change your undies to change the world.
Play this! Can I be
Shrek, the outhouse is clogged up.
She turned into a beautiful ogre, and they lived happily
Ever?
after.
Morning. Better out than in.
This lovable lug.
Donkey and his babies always come. They always come to play with them.
No! You got a friend.
Outhouse again.
Come on. No!
Undies. Outhouse.
Put the sentence in the correct order. Shrek never sleeps. Oh, he's awake because of the babies. Uh-oh.
And they lived happily
ever
after.
He doesn't look happy. Okay, great job. Back to our presentation. You're doing absolutely great. Now, moving to the third part of our lesson today, and it's the last part. The adverbial phrases of frequency. More than one word used to add more information about the frequency or the number. It's not just a word. You can see here phrases. The phrase consists of more than one word, but they are also used to express the frequency or the number or how many times. Examples. He plays football twice a week. As you can see, twice a week. This is an adverbial phrase of frequency. It's not just a word. They go to the club 3 times per week. 3 times per week. This is an adverbial phrase of frequency. Okay, so that's why it's different from the adverb of frequency, like always, frequently, normally. Okay. We go to the cinema once per month. So where's the adverbial phrase here? Absolutely right. Once per month. Okay. Now let's have a look at this picture and ask yourself, how often do you listen to music? Do you even like music? You can say, I listen to music 3 times per week, once per day. Okay, using an adverbial phrase of frequency. Here, how often do you read books? Do you like reading? Do you visit the library? So think, how often do you read books? Maybe once per week, twice per month? All right, now moving to the most interesting part, which is the game. Who doesn't like games? We will play this game together for better understanding of the adverbial phrases of frequency and the adverbs of frequency. Okay, here we are. All you have to do is to hit the mole that shows the adverbial phrase of frequency. Always, no. Once a year, yes. All the time, yes. Normally, no. All the time, yes. Twice a month, yes. Frequently, no. Twice a month, yes. No, that's an adverb of frequency. All the time, yes, this is the adverbial phrase. Adverbial phrase, no. Adverbial phrase, yes. Happily, no, it's an adverb. Getting fast, it's getting very fast. Okay, yes. No. Once in a week. Okay, the time is almost finished and time's up. Great job. Thank you so much, everyone. Back to our presentation, and we have just finished. That's all what I have for you today. I hope you enjoyed the lesson as much as I did. For me, it passed in just the blink of an eye. I hope you found it beneficial and interesting to you. Thank you for your time. See you. Bye.